What is up, everybody? I am Get Flanked, and it's time to take another trip down memory lane in Rainbow Six Siege. The last time we did this on the channel, we talked about what I call the mad scientist era of Rainbow Six Siege. That is the Operation Blood Orchid and Operation White Noise seasons, and just how crazy those seasons were to experience as a player. In this video, we're going to talk about what I consider to be my favorite season of all time in Rainbow Six Siege, and honestly, a season that saved the game for me. That season was Operation Bellum. That would have been Year 3, Season 2. And throughout the course of this video, I'm going to explain why that is my favorite season up to this point in Rainbow Six Siege and why Operation Bellum may have saved the game for me. Now, before we dive deeper into this topic, I do want to let you know real quick that this video is sponsored by Predator Gaming. You've probably already heard of Predator Gaming. They're widely regarded as making some of the highest quality gaming equipment. But what you may not know is that they also sponsor the Pro League Season 10 Finals in Japan. Over the course of the Season 10 Finals, they're going to be doing daily drawings for in-game Predator charms. You can find out more information about those drawings on their Twitter, which is linked down in the description. Now, I don't do a lot of sponsored videos on the channel, but the reason I was excited to work with Predator Gaming is, number one, I actually use their products. I have for a while. I can safely recommend them to you guys, and that's important to me. Number two is that they are one of the biggest supporters of Rainbow Six Siege Pro League, and that's important to me as well. I mentioned they're sponsoring the Season 10 Finals in Japan. Those finals take place on November 9th and 10th. Make sure you tune in and watch those. Make sure you hit up Predator Gaming on their socials. On Twitter, that's at Predator Gaming. Also, there's a link in the description. You can click on that and go check out more of their products. Thank you, Predator Gaming, for supporting this video. Okay, so back into the topic. Why did Operation Bellum save this game for me? Well, let me paint a picture for you. Year 3, Season 1 was Operation Chimera, and Operation Chimera was a polarizing season, to say the least. It was both great and awful in a lot of ways. In some ways, you could say that Operation Chimera was the most successful season that Rainbow Six Siege has ever seen. The fact of the matter is that still to this day, the peak number of players, the highest peak number of players ever recorded by Steam charts for Rainbow Six Siege took place during Operation Chimera. Now, a big reason for that high number of players during Operation Chimera is that it was the season that had Outbreak. Outbreak was the first kind of event that we ever saw in Rainbow Six Siege, and it was amazing. Like, I look back on Outbreak very fondly. That was a really cool event, and no doubt it created a lot of interest in the game. Unfortunately, outside of Outbreak, there wasn't really much else about Operation Chimera that was good. And that's putting it harshly, but that's honestly the truth. You can start with the operators that were introduced, Lion and Finka. Finka isn't so much of a problem in the game as much as I've always just felt like Finka is really boring to play as. And that's a personal opinion. I get it, but that's my opinion. I think that Finka is extremely boring to play because there's no cause and effect with her. I've actually made videos about this before. Like with Finka, you don't really know how you impact the round unless you actually see one of your teammates go down but not out and you revive them. That's really your only opportunity as Finka to know that you impacted the round. And I think that she's just kind of a boring operator to play. Lion being the other operator that came with Operation Chimera, he is well documented as far as how frustrating he is to play against. The fact is that the way Lion is right now is a shell of his former self. He was so much stronger on release than he is now, in my opinion, and he was extremely oppressive. And it was coming at a time when we had a few other operators that were introduced recently in the game that were oppressive as well. I'm thinking mainly of Dokkaebi here. Dokkaebi was introduced, I believe, the season before. That would have been Year 2, Season 4, if I'm remembering that correctly. I could be getting mixed up here, but Dokkaebi was introduced pretty close to Lion. And Dokkaebi was the first operator introduced with a global ability. And, you know, that's an oppressive ability that was introduced into the game that we'd never had to deal with before as players. And then you have Lion introduced with his global ability that allows him to, you know, completely dictate your play. You have to either sit still or be completely outlined on the screen. And it was a recipe for disaster. It was too much too quick. And the game went from being super enjoyable to feeling really, really oppressive in a matter of a couple of seasons. Now, in the top right-hand corner of the screen right now, I'm going to link a video that I made during that time. I believe I made this towards the end of Operation Chimera, and I think it's called It's Been a Rough Season. And it's really just me voicing my frustration, what I was feeling at the time. And I think, it just kind of demonstrates that towards the end of Operation Chimera, myself and a lot of other people were feeling really frustrated with the game. The meta was in one of the worst places it's ever been. There were some mechanics introduced into the game that players weren't adjusting to very well. And all in all, the game was just not in a great state. And I remember specifically thinking at the time that the next season, the season coming after Operation Chimera, really needed to be a home run to get this game back on track. Now, that next season was Operation Parabellum, and Operation Parabellum delivered. It was and is a home run, in my opinion. And I think when you look at Operation Parabellum and why it was so good, you have to start with the content that we got, which was a ton. We got a ton of great content during that season, starting with the operators. We got Maestro and we got Alibi, both of which are really good, fun operators. Maestro, you can say, he's OP, whatever, but no doubt about it, Maestro from the get-go was a really fun operator. The fact that you had his evil eyes, you could zap attackers, it was really, really cool. That Auda LMG made, using an LMG on defense really good and really fun. The bailiff secondary shotgun pistol that both him and Alibi have, allowed you to be really creative with both of those operators. All in all, Maestro, still to this day, is one of the most impactful DLC operators that's ever been introduced into the game and was really fun to play right from the get-go. Alibi, another really fun operator. The idea, the fan theory of having an operator in the game that could throw out decoys had been tossed around for a long time. It's one of the more common fan theories that you would ever hear leading up to this point. And they delivered. It's not perfect. I know a lot of people out there are going to say, you can't even use other weapon skins and stuff like that with her. And I get it. Like, I understand that. And I get that frustration. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people were asking for a decoy operator, and we got it with Alibi. And Alibi was really fun to play. I remember being amazed at what you could do with Alibi, and just whenever she was rolled out, like trying different setups with her and just trying to trick the enemy. It sounds so simple, but it's so fun. And still to this day, I consider Alibi to be one of the more underrated defenders in the game. I've made videos talking about that. And one of the more fun operators that's really ever been introduced to this game, in my opinion. We also got a brand new map during Operation Parabellum. That map was Villa, and Villa is probably the most well-received DLC map that I can ever remember on immediate release. There's been DLC maps that over time have become well-received, such as Coastline, Border, stuff like that. But Villa was almost immediately well-received as a good and competitively viable map. In fact, it went into Pro League immediately. And I think that speaks to the quality of Villa. I enjoy Villa. If I'm listing my top 5 maps, I would say Villa's in there. What I love about Villa is that you can play Villa a lot of different ways. The attacks go a lot of different ways. They don't seem repetitive. You can attack the sites a lot of different ways. And also on defense, you can play a lot of different ways. It's obviously a great map for roaming, but you can anchor and set up some creative lines of sights. It's got a nice blend of destruction. And overall, I think Villa is a really, really good map. We also got a map buff during this time. That was Clubhouse. And this is, again, one of the best map reworks / buffs that we've ever seen in this game. Up to this point, Clubhouse was a map that only had one viable site. That was the bottom floor Arsenal site. The other sites were not very viable. In fact, the second most played site after Arsenal at that time was the bar site, and it was really tough to defend. It was really tough to defend. After the map buff, there's now what you could say 3 viable sites on the map. It's one of the best reworks we've seen. If I'm listing, again, the top 5 maps in the game, Villa and Clubhouse are probably both in that top 5. So that really speaks to the quality of the content that we got during this season. Now, the last piece of content that I want to mention regarding Operation Parabellum, this is also when we got the bulletproof static cameras, which was a new secondary gadget introduced to the game. And of note to mention with both the bulletproof cameras and Maestro's Evil Eyes is up to this point, this smoke plant was really dominating the game. So it was really cool to get two things introduced at this point in the season that countered that smoke plant execute. Both the Evil Eyes and the bulletproof cameras could see through smoke. And it was a really cool mechanic to be introduced in the game. Not anything that we had ever seen before. And to be honest with you, it really changed the way attackers had to play, and in a good way, in my opinion. So two great operators were introduced. One new map that's great was introduced. A great map rework was introduced. A really cool secondary gadget was introduced. I mean, do I need to say any more? I think at the end of the day, Operation Parabellum came out at a time when this game was vulnerable. Coming off of Operation Chimera, the game felt vulnerable. Maybe it was only to me, but I think a lot of other people were feeling that way as well. And we really needed Operation Parabellum to come in and be a strong, fun, good season. And it delivered. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. Let me know what you think. Do you remember Operation Parabellum? Did you enjoy that season as much as I did? Did you feel frustrated after Operation Chimera like I did? Let me know all that stuff down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll have more coming your way here soon.